What a week it's been. What an absolute torrid week. Not only for Peter Mandelson, who is now had the disgrace of having his homes searched both in London and Wiltshire, but also much broader and wider questions coming out of this. The newspapers today are dominated. I mean, every single front page has got something, a derivative of a line around Lord Mandelson's homes being searched, right? That's fine, and we're going to come to that in a second. There's also Gordon Brown talking about the fact that he deeply regrets bringing Peter Mandelson into his government. He's got a piece out in The Guardian. Let me just start with this. Lord Mandelson's homes were raided yesterday night by police investigating him over leaking number 10 documents to Jeffrey Epstein. Several officers entered the disgraced peer's multi-million-pound house near Regent's Park in North London, while Scotland Yard said another warrant was carried out at a Wiltshire address. The Met is investigating Lord Mandelson after it emerged that he had leaked sensitive government documents to Epstein while serving as business secretary in Gordon Brown's cabinet. The disclosures in 3 million Epstein files released by the US Justice Department last week have prompted the biggest political crisis of Sir Keir Starmer's premiership and left him fighting for his career. In other developments, images emerged from the files showing Epstein receiving private dances in the same Paris mansion where Lord Mandelson, who claimed he had never seen the girls there, was pictured in his underpants. I mean, really appalling stuff. Despite saying that he'd only ever seen middle-aged housekeepers, he spent an evening with Epstein and 2 female students in the paedophile's New York home in 2012 and went underwear shopping before the occasion. I mean, it gets more and more sordid, but you get the picture. And you know all of this, I'm sure, already. Now, market-sensitive emails that Lord Mandelson allegedly forwarded to Epstein. I mean, you can go and look at them. Just go into the Department of Justice website, go and do a search on Mandelson, and it's all there. I mean, it's for everyone to see. Go and look at it yourself. These could have been used potentially for financial gain and included an internal government memo about plans to sell government land and property in 2009. He also appeared to discuss a tax on bankers' bonuses and confirm an imminent bailout package for the Eurozone the day before it was announced in 2010. Epstein was also told of Mr. Brown's resignation before it was announced to the public. Look, I don't need to go into all the sordid details because they're everywhere and they are plentiful, not in a good way. But it does make you think, doesn't it? Because there's a very interesting piece in the FT Weekend today. Inside Jeffrey Epstein's social Ponzi scheme. And it says this: new emails reveal the convicted sex offender's ability to fulfill the wants and needs of some of the world's richest and most powerful people. There is a Democratic president and a Republican president, a left-wing intellectual, a right-wing activist firebrand. There are figures from Wall Street, from Silicon Valley, and from the British royal family, all pictures on a wooden sideboard in Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. Now it says this: while the core of the Epstein saga will always be his web of sexual abusers and women and girls they preyed upon, every new set of messages released by the US Justice Department reveals a staggering range of his social network and the relationships he was able to sustain. Epstein's emails read like a self-help group for the 0.01%. I want to ask you this question. Is Mandelson proof that hidden elites run the world? Is Mandelson proof that hidden elites run the world? 0345 6060 973, text 84850. Because, you know what, if you stand back from all of this, and you stand back from Lord Mandelson in his underpants and email disclosures and all the rest of it, and you stand back from the fact that Gordon Brown now regrets bringing him back into government, and Sir Keir Starmer regrets also bringing him in as US ambassador and everything that means for Starmer's own future. I mean, we can get to all of that, of course. But just take a step back for a second. And I wonder if you feel, as I have felt in the last few days, that when you look at all of this and you look at the scale of this, from financiers to academics to activists to people in the cultural and arts fields, to politicians, to well-connected people in every single sphere of human endeavour you can think of, practically, all cavorting around this man, forming a cabal, whether or not they were involved in the abuse of minors or not. He certainly was, and they willingly or unwillingly allowed themselves to be part of his circle. Now, what does that say? What does that say if you take a step back about how we're run and who runs us and how these hidden elite circles actually operate? You see, I take a step back and I look at this, and it's been called a molestation pyramid scheme by some. And Peter Mandelson has actually talked about the fact that Epstein is like dog muck, the smell won't go away. And he says that everything that's happened to him recently, it was like a 5:30 a.m. drive-by shooting. It felt like being killed without actually dying. But I tell you, I feel like I've been killed without actually dying. I'll tell you why. Because I used to think that there was some merit in something called the Nolan Principles, which were released in 1995 for people in public life that were meant to adhere to them. And they are selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. And you think about this, and you think about who's involved and who's given Epstein money for various reasons, for tax advice, even though I didn't know he was a tax specialist. Did you? Unclear about how he acquired all this money. Several questions being raised, indeed, by the intelligence expert Piers Morgan has said it would not surprise me if he turned out to be a Mossad agent. This is in an interview that he's given to the Telegraph, because he was up to his neck in it with a former Israeli PM, Ehud Barak, and others, but also potentially doing stuff with the Russians. Putin name pops up all over the place. Were they using him to compromise a lot of high-profile Americans? He could have easily been simultaneously an agent for Mossad and the Russians. Every conspiracy on this could be true. Now, if I take a step back and I think about this, I feel betrayed, I feel naive, and I feel hopeless. And that is not a good place to be. Now, before I get into the weeds of all of this, I just want to give you an example of how one should think about behaving if you are in a public role of any kind. And I go back to my own political experience. I'm not any great paragon of virtue, and I'm not pretending to be a paragon of virtue. But I will tell you this. When I became a local councillor in 1998 at the tender age of 23, within a few weeks, I was contacted by a local accountant who wanted to meet me in relation to some sort of real estate development, which I thought was a little bit odd. And he wanted to take me out for dinner. So I called my one of my colleagues and I said, this sounds a bit whiffy. What shall I do? He says, well, look, if you go for dinner with this guy, he's a constituent of yours, so, you know, potentially you can go for dinner, but you can't let him pay. You pay for it yourself. I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. So I went for dinner. I paid for it myself, and it turned out to be some issue that he had with the council. I told him to go and refer to the normal channels. I wasn't going to go out of my way to particularly get interfering in some sort of planning application, so he had to go down the normal route. So I gave him short shrift there. Another situation occurred when I was standing for Parliament in Watford, 2005. When during the election campaign, I had to break off to meet an official from a foreign embassy who met me at Watford Junction Station with a confidant of his and walked up the hill, there's a little hill there, to a pub on the corner, sat down opposite me and looked me in the eye and said, I have friends who would like to support your campaign, and I have some money I would like to give you to support your campaign, and I will go and leave it in the bathroom for you. I looked at this individual in the eye and I said, do you think that I am going to sacrifice the political career that I've worked my backside off for the past 8 years on the back of some money in a brown envelope? And he looked at me completely bewildered and shocked and said, oh, but it's like we're like brothers. I said, no, you're not my brother. You're not my brother. He said, well, what should I do with this money now? I said, I suggest you go and give it back to the people who've given it to you. We're in England. It doesn't work like that here. We don't do this sort of nonsense. We actually believe in probity and actually standing for your own principles and winning elections fairly and squarely at the ballot box without bribery. So I sent him packing. I also had a similar situation during the election where a young lady who I had met many years before, turned out to be a constituent, wanted to have dinner with me during the election campaign. And I told her, and I remember distinctly, I said to her, I'm more than happy to have dinner with you, but you are a constituent of mine, so if we go out for dinner pre-election, during the campaign, I cannot buy you dinner. Now, she was from a South Asian background, and I was pretty confident that she would take this the wrong way. So I explained it in great detail that I cannot be seen to be taking out a constituent for dinner because it would be tantamount to bribery. She still didn't get it. I mean, I paid for my own dinner. I didn't pay for her, but she still didn't get it. I think she holds it against me to this day. Anyway, I also was campaigning in my constituency when one of my local grocers on Whippendale Road in Watford said you need to convene members of the Pakistani community in a town hall and go and tell them what you stand for and what your platform is. And we must serve them lamb biryani. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't be buying people biryani during the middle of election games. Oh, don't worry, we'll feed them. Don't worry about it. I said, you can't feed them. It's not allowed. It's breaking electoral rules. These are basic things, basic things that you know about in public life. So how on earth did someone like Peter Mandelson get involved in this murky world led by a convicted sex offender? And he wasn't the only one.